So, while a Pentagon order pulls American troops off German soil, the German foreign minister is calling Tehran directly. Let's debate this further, and to get an insight from US, we have been joined by Erik Lehmkuhle, who is a senior journalist, US editor for the Islamabad Telegraph. Erik, thank you so much and welcome to the show once again.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the US. Gas is at $4.45 a gallon. President's economy numbers are in the low 20s. Senate is in open revolt. From inside Washington tonight, is the political weather actually shifting against Trump on Iran, or the White House still think that Project Freedom resets the story?
Well, I think when you look at the broader picture of our political climate right now, with the ceasefire, Americans generally live in news cycles. So the ceasefire has created sort of a blackout to the news cycle to Americans. So a lot of Americans have moved on to the next major topic already.
All right. Which is?
So that's kind of an issue here that we have, where we just live through news cycles.
It's not just in US, I suppose, it's everywhere. With the flow of information in abundance, it's happening everywhere, but the region where this blockade is actually happening is, of course, suffering more. So all eyes on US. That's why we are looking at every tweet and every Truth Social post from President Trump. We are trying to analyze who blinks first, because a lot of analysts are saying that for a power like Iran, which is not a superpower, they just need to survive this war. However, President Trump really needs a good deal, either a complete win or a good deal. What that good deal is going to be, I don't understand. Nobody fathoms to understand, actually. What's your opinion on that?
So I think we're making a little bit of headway. Yesterday, President Trump made a statement. A reporter had asked him what he thought about the current negotiations going on right now. And President Trump said that he was very, very happy with the progress being made. So it does look like he did initiate Operation Project Freedom, and that's going to allow some movement in the Strait of Hormuz. I think that's going to be a good thing. I think it's kind of a compromise. However, we still get a lot of mixed messages from Iran.
Yes.
You know, at the beginning of this, they said they were never going to negotiate with anybody, and now they're negotiating. You know, we've seen, you know, the Strait of Hormuz threats. Now we're seeing a little bit of movement come through there. They say it's closed and they say it's open. So it's very confusing to actually, you know, get proper information out of Iran. Because they say one thing, then something else happens. And so it is kind of confusing. So I think President Trump is really trying to buy them some time to really get their system together so they can properly negotiate consistently. And I think it's going to bear some fruit. Yes, we're seeing some gas price hikes here. We're still not above the Joe Biden maximum gas price of $5.15 a gallon that we saw during his peak gas hike. So we're not quite there yet. So we're not seeing a massive panic yet, but we are seeing people start to, in America, start to, you know, sweat a little bit about the prices. Several other markets are starting to raise prices a little bit. So it is starting to become an issue of urgency.
Right. The president rejected the peace plan, sent troops into the strait, and pulled forces out of Germany when Berlin pushed back. Is there anyone left in the room willing to tell President Trump that his strategy is maybe not working? That's what Friedrich Merz did, and the price he paid was that he's pulling out of Germany.
So this was, if you look at the grand scheme of things with this strategy, President Trump accomplished one thing. He wasn't looking for help from Europe. He was just looking for cooperation. And he didn't get either. So President Trump does have a long-standing issue with NATO, as we've spent trillions and trillions of dollars to protect European nations, and we have received very little in return. So this was President Trump's way to propose options for Europe, knowing we would get rejected, to expose just how little Europe actually is willing to help the United States. So this is something I think that has been strategically planned as far as exposing Europe and pulling away from European influence in our country, which before President Trump came in, we had a massive European influence in our country. Now it's a lot less. So I think this is something new that we're going to see in America for the upcoming years, to see what a post-European influence is going to look like. I certainly hope that the strategy is correct, but it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, you're
Europe's going to
right.
be put in.
It's to be seen yet whether this strategy would survive another 4 years, another president, if it continues with whosoever is next in the office. But also, this strategy was in place before Iran war, before this conflict. It has been on his agenda. That's true. But now, under the circumstances, this strategy is backfiring because this is giving immense leverage to Iran. Because I say this because now Europeans and the Gulf countries are all contacting Iran, which was once isolated. The global south is already talking to Iran. So is this the right time for this strategy?
We really here in America, we're tired of Europe. So it is an overwhelming left wing and right wing opinion. We've been controlled by them for quite some time, so we don't really have any positive feelings, much left for the European nations.
But Erik, at the same time, they were your allies for so long. You have been fighting wars together. So all of a sudden, if someday a president decides to move on, that is not how a global order works.
Well, it also shouldn't work to where the United States pays everybody's bills. And that's where the American taxpayer has spoken up and said, we're tired of paying everybody's bills.
So given the circumstances, if you pull out of every European country, is there another strategy in place, a military strategy? Because two things: capitalism driven from US, it is centered in US, the whole global economy revolves around that. And then the military power, the US military power is centered around military bases around the world. So how would that resolve?
Well, you have to look at what President Trump has done. He's creating a buffer zone on our side of the hemisphere. The first thing he did was he took back control over the Panama Canal. Then he changed the government structure of Venezuela. Now he's waiting on Cuba to collapse.
Yes.
He's taking away Eastern influence to create a buffer zone so the United States and North and South America can operate without Eastern influence. So that's the main objective. Now we have this oil situation in the Middle East, which last time I looked, I think it's 30% of the global oil market flows through the Middle East, or at least flows through OPEC. So now we're seeing OPEC is becoming less effective. At least from 2000 until present, we've seen a 10% decline in OPEC's relevance in the oil markets. So where's that shifting? Well, it's going to start shifting towards Venezuela. Venezuela is hitting record oil markets right now, record exports. The United States is hitting record exports. So he's creating a buffer zone and bringing that market to this side of the world.
Okay.
So that's where I see
so
it going.
Is his interest, are the interests shifting from Middle East to more of a Western hemisphere? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I see as far as what has happened.
True.
And where things are starting to move from the future. We're seeing an 11 to 17% shift in the global oil markets are coming over into the US and Venezuela right now.
But Erik, one last question. It's not easy to just, I would be blunt here, to just have a president of a country picked up and try to resolve things with that country and then move on to another country. Now, the Cuba is economically strangulated. On the other hand, Iran is strangulated. Economic strangulation has become a tool for US to achieve whatever it wants to achieve. So US has to win the hearts of the people as well, and I'm talking about American people here. So what's happening is very hostile in many people's opinion, including many Americans. How do you look at that?
I look at it as when we look at President Trump's strategy, things don't always look correct at first. It looks odd and it's unorthodox, and a lot of the world is not used to how President Trump operates, and so it makes it a very docile situation when President Trump does something different. Everybody panics. Generally, what President Trump does is he creates the strategy, he implements it, everybody criticizes it, and then several months later, after it's been done and over with, then everybody sits around and goes, well, Trump was probably right on that one. So that's what I'm kind of waiting on.
Is that the sentiment of the majority people in US?
Well, the majority of the people are sucked into our legacy media that it depends on what channel you watch, is what story you get. Everybody has their own narrative, so everyone's buying into whatever narrative of news they watch.
Right. Thank you so much, Erik, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you, and thanks for a very candid analysis. These were 3 stories tonight from 3 different continents, yet all leading to the same vantage point. An Iranian peace plan offered last Thursday, rejected by Saturday, answered with 15,000 American troops on Monday morning. 2 months of a war whose cost is no longer countable in oil prices alone. It is in destroyed hospitals, silenced gas plants, lost universities, razed villages. A regional peace project that took 20 years to build and 65 days to break. And a Pentagon pulling troops out of Germany on the same weekend that the German foreign minister called Tehran. The country that started this war to isolate Iran is the country being isolated tonight. This is how it seems. The country that was supposed to be on its knees is drafting peace plans. This is tonight's finding. I am Zunaira Azhar, and this was DECODE. Good night.